The Cheating Death Podcast is a comedy podcast providing objective information about anything and everything under the sun. We are not left, nor center, nor right, nor political, nor religious. We provide the information that the people want to hear. Listener discretion is advised. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we provide you with a deep look into Florida State Hospital in Chatahoochee, Florida. We also provide you with a little bit of insight into the dumbing down of education, the oversimplification, and the pricing out of most people within the college and university walls. Ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners, this is indeed the Cheating Death Podcast, and you are more than welcome to provide your feedback. That's right, we are going to be including a mailbag section at some point in the coming weeks and the coming months of the episodes to come. So therefore, leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com, or if there's anything that you want to get off your chest and have it read on the air, feel free to let your sparks fly. And dear listener, you know what to do by this point. Grab yourself a coffee, put your feet up, wrap yourself up in your favorite blanket, and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. The idea and the notion that education is becoming a luxury is not an illusion. We go into generational debt now just to obtain the gratification, the instant luxury of having a sheepskin printed diploma or degree in order to justify our placement in the rat race. Yes, moving along those in whom within your offices have acquired a similar degree. Are their pay structures the same as yours? Do they really have anything different to bring to the table other than you, or maybe your friend in whom only attended community college, or a good friend of yours in whom went into a trade and learned everything from the ground up in order to understand how plumbing or electrical work functions? No, dear listener, the only thing that separates those individuals is opportunity, money, resources, and time. For you see, if you are always struggling, if you are always in a state to where you are not able to pay for even the most rudimentary sustenance, then what are the possibility and chances that you are going to exceed or excel at a university? under a scholarship or under any sort of program that does not require you to pay under $100,000, it's very simple. You will not. So a lot of people take gambles. A lot of people take very calculated risks, and they take out large student loans, assuming that maybe that degree is just what they need. When in reality, we now live in a time where you can acquire just about any level of information for free. You can teach yourself just about anything as long as you have the right discipline, as long as you have the right drive, and as long as you have just enough bitterness in your soul to push forward and to wage war upon the mediocrity that this society has become. We take into consideration exactly how lucky we were when we were younger to go through some of the things we went through in school, but meanwhile, the entire system is built and designed to filter people out. The education system in North America has been broken for almost half a century. So, dear listener, when you understand that the asylum system growing and rising in the 1800s and only finally shutting down in the 1980s, and you directly link that to so many in whom have bet their entire lives on a promise that was never meant to be fulfilled by those who provided it, it starts to become a little bit more understandable as to why this conspiracy could have a little bit more weight than initially expected. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht. Ist deine Reisende und deine Ausländer, deine Schauspieler und deine Allesfresser. Du ganz allein, meine Freunde, komm mit mir. Today, dear listener, we look into a couple of different elements that may have a slight tie-in to each other in the elements of not only insanity, but also exactly what may cause individuals in whom are mentally ill to have so many points of contention with their treatment, as well as the conspiracy that post-secondary education, university, colleges are not only being overpriced, but the education system as a whole in North America being dumbed down, further diluted at its core. Ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners, Florida State Hospital was first established in a lovely city known as Chatahoochee, Florida, in the year of our Lord, 1876. We take into account that Chatahoochee, Florida, around this time was considered to be very archaic, very old value, very elderly appreciative, even at that time, if you will, dear listener. Yes, Florida has always had a penchant for the older folk. For back in the 1800s, Florida, even then, was still the primary destination for those looking to escape the horrible winters of New York, Maine, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and everywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line. And it was in this time, around 1876, that there were a litany of individuals in whom resided throughout the great state of Florida that were sent to Florida State Hospital, not only to rehabilitate their already overburdened and overtanned brains, but to provide themselves with a new opportunity to potentially move forward in a way medically that was not previously possible. For it was Florida's only mental institution all the way up until 1947. So, dear listener, imagine this. Imagine 72 years of individuals coming from all around the state, cracking that whip of the horse and the buggy, trying to get themselves to proper care in order to seek freedom from despair. It's a very long period of time in which to have only one mental hospital throughout the entire state, but alas, it was the late 1800s, and this was not necessarily considered. However, It also remains in operation mainly as an institution, and ultimately the institutional standards have drifted up and down, in and out, and from left to right over the years, but it serves predominantly as a facility for those of the criminally insane, for those in whom have committed significant crimes of great grotesque value and of absolute horrific shock, even by Florida's standards. So you're not going to see any rogue alligators in here. No, you're only going to see Florida's most insane, most depraved, and most violent individuals in whom are not deemed fit for trial. Throughout the early 1900s, before the opening of other mental institutions in the state of Florida, this facility was known for lacing pharmaceuticals with other pharmaceuticals in order to see exactly how the patients reacted or responded. Food was tampered with. People were deprived of sleep as well as hydration and vitamins and nutrients for days at a time if it was deemed that they were being insubordinate. During these times, nurses, doctors, and administration alike would ignore the patient to a point of beyond maddening proportion that we understand, dear listener. By today's standards, even one day of this type of treatment would be enough to get all individuals from said facility terminated and have all of their licenses revoked. But again, the 1800s and the early 1900s were a crazy time, pun very much so intended. On the topic of craziness and crazy times, dear listener, are you aware that post-secondary education costs are rising? Are you aware that programs are being removed from educational institutions like universities and colleges at an alarming rate? Are you aware that we live in a very unprecedented time of unfettered, unregulated access to university and to college funds by those in whom are responsible for spearheading the administration? Well, dear listener, you may very well be on the right track, because we are all aware that within this time in history, education is everywhere. While you may be able to acquire a perfectly free education by reading books, by going upon your own path and doing what you can, putting up your sleeves and digging your elbows into the proverbial grease and grit and the grime of that which makes you move forward towards your goals, sometimes it may not necessarily be of the individual's desire to go that route. So you decide to embark upon a 4-year bachelor degree or a 2 or 3 year associate's degree at a polytechnic college or a specified college. You take into consideration many things before you sign up for your program. How much it's going to cost, how much the salary of the expected job that you are going to acquire will be, and how long it will take you for you to pay your student loans back. Well, you see, now there are millions of people in whom are starting to realize that college, university, PhDs, master's degrees, and everything in between are completely laden with scams, absolute lies, false hopes, ideological dreams, while people lay awake listening to their screams, realizing that the amount of time that they're going to have to take to pay off the debt, while if they're lucky enough to get a fast food job, is going to exceed the amount of time it would take the average person to walk from Portland, Oregon to Tallahassee, Florida. Because, dear listener, even though education should be accessible and universal to any and all capable of doing the work of understanding what the course material is, of knowing exactly what their trajectory should look like before, during, and after their education, those people as well are facing barriers they never thought they would have to face before. What do you mean this particular program will not accept me if I do not live within a particular radius of the educational institution? This is an online degree. What do you mean? And let's be honest, for decades, centuries, anyone in whom does not share a particular value or presents themselves in such a way may, in some way, shape, or form, be discriminated against by an educational institution due to a perceived slight or difference in values and belief systems. This is not how it should be. The idea and the notion that education is becoming like a PlayStation 5 was for people in the first holiday week of 2020, a luxury, is so beyond abhorrent and unheard of that we as a species really need to work together to help each other, to teach each other, to exchange skills, languages, types of communication, music, notes, happy, sad times, each and everything in between, because this is not a secret, this is not a spoiler, and this is absolutely, in no way, shape, or form, a complete fourth wall break. But we are all aware that as human beings, the only point that each of us has, in which we all agree on, that makes us enjoy living, are stories, histories, experiences, things that make us feel. And the more you take away people's opportunity to educate themselves at an institution to where they should be able to learn without the stress and the burden of attempting to acquire that higher knowledge, the more we are doing ourselves a disservice as a species. It is ingrained into culture in North America that if you do not pay for education, then you have no right to it. It was not always this way. We, as a species, need to stand up, work together, and configure a solution that will assist everyone in whom wants to learn, wants to explore their brains, and wants to understand the world just a little bit more. We need to do what we can to try to make that a little bit easier for everyone. What are your thoughts on the education conspiracy in America and in the world at large? Leave your comments in the YouTube section below. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. Today's joke is brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. There's a news story about a man with very poor eyesight who fell down a well the other day. A friend was asked about this particular article and what their opinion was, and stated, maybe he just couldn't see that well. At the top of the episode, we promised you a list of our top 5 current favorite Pringles, so let us ride the wave and dive right in. Coming in at number 5, we have the ever so classic barbecue flavor. Coming in at number 4, we have everyone's favorite, the original flavor. Coming in at number 3, we have the wavy Pringles. Coming in at number 2, we of course have the ranch Pringles. And coming in at number 1, we have the intense dill pickle Pringles. What are your top 5 favorite Pringles? Leave a comment below or email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. The very notion that education at a post-secondary level, and even to a certain degree a secondary level within the North American education system, is not only being priced out, but is also being dumbed down and oversimplified to a very offensive / comedic point, is not a new theory or ideology. The notion that Florida State Hospital has a lot more skeletons in their closet is absolutely not a new theory either. What is to be gained and understood from both of these items is that we, as a species, need to do better. We need to start caring about each other a lot more than what we are right now. What is taking place in North America and in many parts of Europe with respect to the complete destruction of the healthcare systems as well as to the education systems needs to be addressed. We, as members, as citizens, as residents of each of these countries, need to take time. We need to stand up. We need to take care of each other. And in some cases, revolt may be necessary. You, dear listener, your time is valuable. And we, of course, appreciate you taking the time to listen to our program today. What do you feel can be done to increase the beauty of the world? Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com or leave a comment in the section below. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Nach dem Leben CRDVC, Cleric of Chaos, and where you can find all podcasts on all platforms. We'd like to thank Hunter Collins and Ransom for their recent support to the Buy Me a Coffee program, and we'd like to thank Carol for her recent support to the Host's Injury Support Fund. If you'd like to support the program, you may do so at the links in the episode's description, merch, media, Cameo, much, much more. If you or anyone you know is experiencing psychiatric duress, domestic violence, or any emergency situation, there is a list of telephone numbers in the episode's description, as well as in the podcast's description as well. Feel free to follow the program at youtube.com/@clericofchaos and youtube.com/@weallcheatdeath, twitter.com/clericofchaos and twitter.com/weallcheatdeath. Follow all of our friends in the pinned profile post on Twitter, as well as in the links in the episode's description. And if you're looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center. Dear listener, you understand as well as I do that life is difficult. There are no easy answers, unless you have a trust fund. But for the 99.999% of us on this planet, it is a learning experience. We are facing a time in history completely uncharted. Be kind to yourself. Be resourceful. Do what you can to figure it out and to thrive. Remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together.